Manever I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there, osia dem yopo.
To debate my good prof a bit today. You see,
it's happening once in a while.
I will start with this. I mean, there's several issues we should be talking about, but I'll start with this issue of IFRS. And the IFRS issue is interesting. Why? Because institutions like us, who are governed, I'm talking about DALEX, who are governed by the central bank, all work to, we have to report strictly by IFRS standards. So it is, the first question is, why shouldn't the central bank also report to IFRS standards? But then, research reveals something very interesting. Do you know how many central banks in the world report to IFRS standards? You know, 2. 4 reporting to IFRS standards. 2. It is the South African Reserve Bank and the Central Bank of Kenya. 2. Do you know how many of them work to some modification of the IFRS? 4. Who are those 4? The European Central Bank, the Bank of England, the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, and guess who the 4th one is? The Central Bank of Ghana. So now, the rest of the central banks and the and reserve banks all do not work to IFRS standards. Kenya and South Africa are striking in that they insist on working because they believe there's the need for credibility in markets. It's so important. The 4 of us left, including Ghana, work to modified IFRS standards. Reserve Bank of the US, etc., etc., all the way to China, back, forth, whatever central bank you can think about. They have their own standards. So the fact that we don't work to IFRS standards is not a crime. Looking at our at the world, at the global issue. And why don't we work to IFRS standards? Because there is an issue that there's central banks, first of all, they are non-profit. So that gives them, because they have other objectives apart from pure profit. 2, they operate with large amounts of gold and other forex that are subject to revaluation. And in fact, it is the revaluation issue that leads people to say, people to claim that we don't want that revaluation, those revaluations, to create profit volatility. That one year we are up, the other year we are down. And so we have to be cautious. Now, so what you have in Ghana is not, in fact, it is in the top tier of how central banks operate, rather than the other way around. And so, even though we are not operating to IFRS standards, peer comparison says, of all the central banks in the world, Ghana is in the top 6 with regards to IFRS reporting. And that's very important. So this, I'm very hesitant in making this IFRS issue the really big deal. Because you see, one of the challenges you have is this. I own this bottle of water. Good. Today, right, this bottle of water is worth 2 cedis. Tomorrow, it's 3 cedis. I still have the bottle of water. But that change can be looked at in multiple ways. And because the central banks hold such large amounts central banks hold such large amounts of gold, other assets. That's why this modification of IFRS standards comes in. So I'm hesitant. I would say we're even doing better than most of our peers. Now, to go to this second issue, which is policy solvency.
Okay. Now back to the
IFRS.
The IFRS matter.
Okay. You
So
don't
I'm
want
reading,
me to surge?
No, just a quick one. I'm reading the minorities press conference, portion of it, and I would be glad if you can help me appreciate what the minority is saying. Now, it says some of you may ask, how can the headline loss appear so much smaller than the underlying loss? The answer is in the basis of accounting itself, and it is flagged in the audited documents by KPMG, the new auditors. And I'm bringing this up because of the modified IFRS matter that you raised. Now, it says that it's a KPMG draws attention to Note 2AI and writes, and I quote them directly: the consolidated and separate financial statements are prepared in accordance with the group's own accounting policies. As a result, the consolidated and separate financial statements may not be suitable for another purpose. Our opinion is not modified in respect of the matter. So this is KPMG talking. Now, translated into plain language, the accounts are not prepared on full international financial reporting standards. They are prepared on the bank's own internal framework. KPMG could not say prepared in accordance with IFRS. Do you get the point I'm trying to make?
Yes, but no central. The only two central banks that do so.
So why is KPMG raising this issue?
KPMG is what KPMG is telling you is that this set of accounts have not been prepared so that you can go out and compare them to, say, ABSA or Zenith,
commercial banks,
or
financial institutions,
or other institutions.
Right.
These have been prepared to a set of rules that the central bank has. Note, it also goes, read the second part.
Yes.
It says what? Our opinion is what? Read that part.
So it says that as a result, the consolidated and separate financial statements may not be suitable for another purpose.
Yes.
Our opinion is not modified in respect of this matter.
Thank you.
So they agree with you.
You see, what the issue is simply this. If what KPMG says, these accounts, if KPMG comes to audit me and he says these accounts are mugu mugu, I'm not sure about what is happening, it will say I've modified my opinion.
Yeah.
It's very clear. It says,
right.
We have not modified our opinion. Our opinion stays the same.
Right.
We stand by it.
Right.
Except the rules we used were rules not of the complete set of IFRS.
Right.
The complete set of IFRS reporting standards. International Financial Reporting Standards is IFRS.
Right.
But this is a set that is, in a sense, unique to
the central bank.
The central bank.
That's why I talked
about.
But
what I'm also pointing out to you, that only 2 central banks go the full IFRS BoG. Only 4 even base it on IFRS. The rest don't even bother at all.
Right.
They have their own sets of rules.
Okay.
Whether you agree with those rules or not, it's a different matter. Because what they're saying is that there are significant reasons why we cannot report the same way.
Okay.
And then the auditors go further to say, but the opinion we have offered does not change because of this matter.
Right.
So you can still rely on my opinion.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So we should look at this holistically.
Okay. Right. Now,
Okay.
let them continue. And I want us to end with this. On page 4 of the same audited document, the directors themselves are, and again I quote, The recognition and measurement criteria as set out in the IFRS accounting standards as adopted by the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana have not been applied in these circumstances. Right. The directors then disclosed that under Section 7 of the Bank of Ghana Act, foreign exchange revaluation gains and losses on gold, on special drawing rights, and on foreign securities are excluded from the determination of the bank's annual profit or loss. You see, the reason why we keep bringing this matter because it has a direct effect or impact on how we even calculate what exactly constitutes the loss.
Yes.
And that's why I'm raising this matter again.
Let's list those three items. What are they? Number one.
Yes.
Special drawing rights.
Yes. So special drawing rights. So first of all,
exchange revaluation.
Special drawing rights and foreign securities are excluded from the determination of the bank's annual profit loss.
Okay.
So let me read it. Let me read the entire thing. The directors then disclosed that under Section 7 of the Bank of Ghana Act, foreign exchange revaluation gains and losses on gold and special drawing right and on foreign securities are excluded from the determination of the bank's annual profit and loss. They are pushed into other comprehensive income where they affect equity but not the headline loss number.
This is really the biggest departure from IFRS that happens.
Right.
It says that I'm holding large quantities of SDRs, foreign currencies, especially gold in our case,
Right.
and foreign securities. These, because I don't want the volatility, and we could debate this, I don't want the volatility in income from year to year. And because I'm holding it, it's not as if I'm holding it, and so it's about what I'm holding. I exclude those ones from my
P&L.
P&L.
Yeah.
And put them, but they will reflect on their, essentially they will
Comprehensive
reflect
income.
on my balance sheet,
Right.
but not on my P&L.
Right.
Okay.
That's fine.
So long as we are consistent, this is fine.
Okay.
So let's rewind. We've had other years of losses.
Right.
Has this changed? No. I dare say no. You see, one of the rules that is important for all of us is that, for example, we are comparing 2024 loss to 2025 and saying the loss has.
Oh, you mean the 2022 loss, which is 60 billion?
No, I'm not. I'm saying just even 2024
Right.
to 2025
Right.
to say the loss has gone up. Right? It is important to ask ourselves: is what the rules we are using today, are they consistent with the rules we have used
over the years?
Right. So that we can be sure we are comparing
oranges to oranges.
Oranges to oranges and not apples to oranges.
Right.
And I dare say that the rules have been consistent.
Okay.
Right? Such that let's not act as if this is the first time this is happening. Or that new rules have been introduced to take us out of a particularly disastrous looking report. In fact, the whole point, and that's very, more, are you with me?
I'm here.
You see, I would have accepted some of the issues if you could say that somewhere in 2025, you introduce new rules so that those new rules could be used in your favor.
Right.
If we have been consistent in our rules, then we can't complain. You can't have your cake. You can't eat your cake and have it. Because the rules have been consistent.
Right.
And it's important in all this that we look at consistency in applying the rules. And I dare say that number one, amongst the globally, only 2 central banks apply IFRS.
We talked about this
in full.
Right.
Number 2, Ghana actually has a modified IFRS. But of course, you can't take some of the rules and leave some of the rules.
Yeah.
So But if you go and look at publications about central banks, we are one of the 4 who are closely aligned to IFRS but modified.
Right.
Okay. The rest have their own rules.
Yes.
The other issue is this: that have those rules been consistent? If those rules have been consistent, then we should have been crying foul some years ago.
Right.
Not today.
Right.
Okay. So can we now move on?
So we can. Sure.
We can move on to the issue of policy solvency.
Yes, so policy. So before you talk about the policy solvency, so Gideon Wako on his Facebook wall, he's an economic advisor to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
Yeah.
He talks about, they said, this is the biggest non-crisis loss. Non-crisis, so we don't have crisis. in BoG history. A 15.6 billion loss, which is over 30, so he thinks it's 34 billion cedis in reality without any crisis. He has this way of calculating. It comes back to this whole model of calculation, accounting model. But I think we've dealt with that. Now, he says there has been no crisis to manage since the government took office, so there is no excuse for these losses. No COVID, no banking collapse, no global cost of living crisis, no debt crisis. MBP fixed all the crises by 2024 and left a GDP growth of 5.8%. NDC inherited stability and gold for Forex and are squandering it. They have reversed the recovery plan MPP handed to them. And the MPP losses were falling. And it says now they have spiked. The recovery path has been destroyed in just 1 year. It says C figures, 2023, 13.23 billion. 2024, 9.49 billion. Now 2025, 15.63 billion. He says that is regression. If it continues like this, we may never leave IMF program or return quickly by 2028. What do you make of this? We don't have a crisis. So why did we have to aggressively bring the CD, aggressively appreciate the CD? That's the point. That's the question he's asking. We don't have any crisis. We're fine.
The question you have to ask is, when you say you don't have a crisis, were we out of the crisis?
Well,
were we out of a crisis?
No.
Why not?
There's still a fall after the DDP, isn't it?
Yes, and there's a critical. You see, sometimes I ask the question. Assume I'm the man in the street, and I'll come back to being a finance person. But assume I'm the man in the street. What do I appreciate more? A loss of the central bank, and as much as that is in context very problematic. Let's not use this to say that the loss in itself is not problematic. Right. It is problematic. But let's also be clear in our minds that for the ultimate person in the street, CD at 14, CD at 10.5. Which one do they appreciate?
I think the latter, obviously.
Good. For me, in the financial sector, rates where they were and rates today, which one do I appreciate?
Today's rate, obviously.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, and we could go on and on and on. Some of the things don't even make a difference to. So, for the man in the street,
you left out inflation.
Inflation is a very, it's a very murky concept, because you see, what happens is that even though inflation has fallen, it is the prices, the rate of increase that has fallen.
Slow down.
So for the man in the street, he's still facing some pricing increment. So be careful when you go.
And that's why they say, sorry, I was inflation. I'm on 2 cities, and obviously 2 cities, 1 percent.
So you notice I say that, I say clear, because inflation itself
is tricky.
It's tricky.
It's very tricky.
It's tricky. And you'll be surprised that even seasoned economists, when they meet the man in the street, they struggle to explain why. I didn't see there 50, about 20, and then let me see if and you must still quiet.
So I now understand why you left it out. When you're talking about what matters to the man on the street.
Because the man on the street will quickly count. As for the dollar, he can feel it and see it. As for the what do you call it? The inflation, you say, Sam Papa Kessie I will be cancelled.
And of course, they will feel the cost of borrowing. The cost of borrowing.
When I talk about the cost of borrowing, I've now moved from the ordinary man to the business.
The business, okay.
To the business. And you see, I also stayed away from talking about high net worth individuals because they will not agree with me.
Yeah, I know.
Because they will tell me, my depositors are telling me, why are the rates so low?
Yeah.
What? So let's be clear about the constituencies I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm talking about the man in the street,
and
I'm talking about the business.
The business.
And so when you look at this in its generality, and you think, and here inflation, see, the stabilization of the CD is a very critical thing, because the CD is interesting, because the CD is the biggest pass-through back to inflation.
True.
So there's a very symbiotic, dynamic relationship between inflation, because we import a lot of things. When the CD comes down, you actually find inflation also one of the first things that are affected.
Yes.
But back to these issues.
Okay.
My point is that if you take the average Ghanaian and you say, I spent less than 2% of all the money we all generated, our GDP, so that you could get these benefits, what they say?
We'll be happy.
And that's, you see, and it's important that we address both constituencies. We address that constituency, and then we also address, as the finance committee say, hey, central bank, if it was a subordinate, regulated agency that was this insolvent, you would have issued a prompt corrective action.
Right.
So,
this is saying that.
so maybe we ought to discuss this issue of the losses.
Yeah.
And to say that the biggest issue is that long term, these losses are not sustainable.
But the Bank of Ghana itself recognizes, and that's why it tells us that there's all kinds of reforms happening.
Thank you.
And there's actually a policy shift.
Yes.
So
no, but that comes to the issue of policy solvency.
Thank you.
Because you see, policy solvency says that given its revenue streams, and our expectation of what is about to happen, will it be making enough money to pay for its core operations? Will it be making money enough so that over the next few years we could expect that it could absorb these losses that it is at one were there before 2025 and were increased in 2025? You know the answer I gave to that?
Okay.
They are solvent, but it's tight. They're solvent.
But it's tight.
But it's tight. Because
no breathing space.
There's very little
breathing space.
And there's a very critical and what we did over the weekend was to look at modeling policy solvency and what the issues are and where their revenue is coming from. And we realized that there are certain critical assumptions. The most important one is this, that inflation shouldn't shoot up again. And so that on the fiscal side, the side that is the expenditure of the government, it shouldn't take any somersaults. Otherwise, that policy solvency, that is there for now, but it is very tight, could take a somersault. That's number one. Number two is that the exchange rate is still critical to this process. And in our best case scenario, we don't see these losses being absorbed in anything less than 4 years. But for now, is when you look at the revenue streams, is the policy solvency, which is that, let me give you as an example. Moro owes money.
Yeah.
Right? But can we reasonably expect that the income Moro will get will pay for his expenses this year?
Yeah.
And maybe leave some to start to cushion reduce the money he owes.
Yeah, exactly.
And the answer simply is that for the central bank, it is yes. Just like it could be for your case.
Okay.
But things are tight tomorrow. If anything goes wrong, if you go and spend some money doing some fancy things, you know,
you'd be in trouble.
You could be in trouble.
Yes.
So here's the thing, right?
Right.
My submission is that, are they solvent? Yes. Is it tight? Very tight. And they need to watch inflation like a hawk. And they need to watch what is happening on the Ministry of Finance and very carefully. Because should inflation take a somersault, we're in trouble.
Right.
The more difficult one, though, is this. What if the shock is external?
Wow.
Then we run into trouble. So if I was being kind to the governor, I'll be kneeling down in the morning and praying, Charlie, Trump, solve this Middle East war, because, you know, I love this proverb. It's an Akan proverb, so I'll say it in Akan, and I know Prof will understand it. Then I will translate it for you and the rest of your listeners also. Kitso, nkisi moko, uma akar, no one churn. You know what it means?
Yes.
The lizard goes to eat its pepper, and the frog starts to sweat. Trump has gone to eat his pepper. Now look at us in Ghana here. Now we're discussing how that external shock will give us a somersault. That is the problem.
Right.
If the shock is external, then we don't, you know, it's easy for me to say watch inflation, because after all, inflation is the central bank's own mandate. I can say keep an eye on the government, because you are the government's banker.
Right.
So you should be coordinating with them and making sure that you don't grant them any deficit financing.
Right.
But if the shock is external, that one, I don't know how the central bank is going to. So here's the point.
Okay.
Right. I've seen all sorts of definitions about policy solvency. And I really say the issue is fairly simple.
Okay.
Well, it's income, and we have analysis of the income, right? There could be an issue to say your income is very dependent on gold, or the net gain from sales of refined gold.
Right.
And if anything happened to that, you could also be running into trouble. But so that's why it is tight. But at the heart, for now, it is solvent.
Okay.
And remember that if it wasn't policy solvent, then the going concern issue would not be valid. And so we would expect, you see, I also operate from this angle that when you tell me KPMG has audited its books, I have to have some trust in KPMG. I have to believe that they come with some level of professionalism and knowing how emotive this particular issue is, that they would be cautious and at the same time make sure they don't smear their own reputation. So that they haven't qualified the account means that they truly believe that there's an issue of going concern, because the going concern was there. You've made these losses. Will you, any company that makes these kind of losses, they will be asking you, will you survive the next year?
Right. Now, Big J, I'll come back to you, but Prof, I want to read this before you come in. Again, I'm looking at the minorities' statement that it read at yesterday's press briefing. It says that in 2025, the Bank of Ghana recorded a strong policy solvency position, improving markedly over the 2024 out term. Now, fellow Ghanaians, he says this is not true. Now, watch closely as we demonstrate to you. Now, the income from operations is, and still about policy solvency, right? Because it's under policy solvency. Now, he says the income from operations is 22.2 billion, and the cost of OMO, which is open market operations, is 16.7 billion CDs. You haven't even touched on the open market operations.
No, there's a lot more.
Oh, there's a lot more. Okay, now we have some time. We have about some 50 more minutes. So now the difference between these, it is what gives the Bank of Ghana the supposed 5.5 billion surplus, which the claim shows the bank is policy solvent. So it talks about how much is earned. 22.2 billion is spent. 16.7 billion. There's a difference of 5 billion, which is a billion. It's surplus. Good. Now it says it is in the 9.6 billion cedis, which is included in the income from operations to arrive at the 22.2 billion. Now it says this 9.6 billion is the net gain from sale of gold assets. The Bank of Ghana is not in the business of trading gold. Like any other entity, selling off assets to generate income cannot be a sustainable way of running an entity. This is disclosed in Note 9 of the auditor's statement. It is not a recurring operational gain. It is a one-time disposal of strategic reserves at a moment of rising international gold prices. Now, if you strip out that one-off cushion, income from operations would have been 12.7 billion. And if you subtract the 16.7 billion from the 12.7 billion, the BoG would have reported a deficit of 4 billion. And he alluded to that in his earlier presentation. I'm talking about Professor Isaac Boedi, that the sale of gold was more like a bellwether. The central bank had to sell gold.
It was the biggest single
transaction income of 9 point something, which is that if they hadn't done that, they would have been in trouble. But there are others who have also explained that perhaps the central bank did not do so necessarily because it noticed it was going into trouble. It was getting itself into trouble. Here I'm talking about its finances on its books, but it did so because, and I think I've heard the spokespersons of the central bank say at the time gold prices were good, and you have talked about the volatility of these assets and the reason why it's not even added to the main accounting and that is added into the OIC. So they say the prices are good. We need more forex. Why don't we sell the product? But of course, their critics are saying they don't trust the central bank. They think the central bank had to sell because they realized that they were making losses and they had to make up for it. So I'll get your thoughts on that, and whether from where you sit, what could have necessarily been the main motive for engaging in such a large volume of transaction at the time that brought in some 9.6 billion, which has actually been included in the 22.2 billion to then arrive at a surplus of 5 billion. Do you get the point I'm making? Yeah, all right, Prof, so please come in. we're all learning some accounting.
I'm not sure. You see, this should be able to exhaust it. We need a bigger platform.
Yeah, need a bigger platform.
Because
the issues
as
are
I
long.
was speaking, Prof was making throw blows. It's good to have
Today he's a student. Today he's a student. He's taking notes.
Professor Joe Jackson. Because he's going to do the remark. No. So Prof is going to jump left, right. So I'm saying, how do you end up with a professor?
And it's accounting of
finance.
I'm picking notes.
The true operating loss of the Bank of Ghana for the year 2025 is 34.9 billion Ghana cedis. And in fact, if you add back the sale of the gold or the proceeds from the sale of the gold, the 9.6 that I've just shown you, the true comprehensive loss position of the Central Bank of Ghana is 44 billion Ghana cedis. I'll show you with the numbers. As I've mentioned, that gold sale was to reduce it from 44 to 35 and also to remove the policy insolvency that they found themselves.
All right, so you're still watching Good Morning Ghana on Metro Television, a special edition. We have, as you do on Mondays, we have Mr. Joe Jackson here, who is the boss at Dalex Finance, Chief Executive Officer, and also he's a finance and economic analyst. Also here with us is Professor Isaac Boedu, who is the Dean, Accounting and Finance Department, UPSA. We sincerely apologize. The flyers that went out at the UG, the University of Ghana, we're so sorry about that. It was a typographical error. It's unacceptable though, but then we say sorry about that. He's from UPSA. We're having a conversation on the back of the the financial statement of the Bank of Ghana, which has been put out there, and the interpretations that people have sought to put on it. Yesterday, I said the minority held a news conference and gave their own understanding on interpretation of it. The majority quickly responded by issuing a comprehensive statement to counter the claims that have been made by the minority, and the two of them here have been trying to help us to understand exactly what's in there. Quite clearly, Mr. Joe Jackson thinks that it's half a glass full, and Professor Isaac Boedu thinks it's half glass empty. So that's what I'm saying. It's all about perspectives. It's all about perspectives. But we would most certainly need a bit more time to digest the issues. There's quite a lot of things to look at as far as the central bank's matter is. But like I said, with ordinary people, what does all of this mean to us? What it means is that the macroeconomy, the economy generally is stable. Price of goods and services are, are quite much better, and we are better off today than we were yesterday. But the experts will tell us that yes, they agree that, but there's still a conversation that ought to be had because we know what to do better, in how we're going about things. Anyway, so Prof, in a nutshell, what I would say, how do we move away? How do we do better going forward? So let me read this. So Moses Bawe, he's a former audit service staff. Now he says that is Prof a chartered accountant or has ever been in practice? I'm asking just as a matter of interest. The standards allow non-compliance with the standard to better present the financial statement and disclose the matter. The auditor in their report stated that the BoG has been consistent in its presentation and disclosure. That is what the standards require. The auditors issued an unmodified report, which is what external and internal users will be interested in. He's an auditor himself. Now, this one from Eben from Kwabenya says the so-called huge loss claimed as a claim by the minority of the Bank of Ghana is better than what we witnessed under the past regime of abysmal performance. If for nothing at all, Ghanaians have seen the appreciation of the cedi against the foreign currencies. They should tell us what their so-called losses in 2022 added to Ghana's economy. Greetings to Honorable Julius Debra. This one, Carlos from Ododo says that with regards to the economy, if the MPP professor or neutralist, oh Carlos, you have to do this. Let's start the crying. If the MPP professor, if the professor or neutralist truly understood economic management, he should have advised his party when they were in power. They failed around the economy to the ground. Now that the economy is gradually recovering, they have the audacity to criticize. If they knew better, they should have acted when they had a chance. They perform poorly and should remain silent while this government works to improve the situation for Ghanaians. I don't know him to be an MPP member. I do know him to be a lecturer and a dean. So Carlos, I don't know where I'm getting this information from. Anyway, what President Mohammed and the authorities must do is ensure that those who squandered state funds through corruption mismanagement are arrested and prosecuted. That is what Ghanaians expect. And it says, and God bless you. And God bless you too, Mr. Carlos. Now, Manche Bruce II, he's a professor too. He's a lecturer at Takoradi Technical University. And he's a regular viewer of the show. He says, more, contrary to the submissions advanced by NDC majority, the said accounts were not prepared in full compliance with international financial reporting standards, but rather in accordance with the bank's internal accounting policies, a position expressly flagged by the auditors and acknowledged by the bank's directors. It is this caveat that permitted the reclassification of significant losses, particularly foreign exchange revaluation losses, to other comprehensive income OCI, thereby resulting in a reduction of the reported headline deficit. Even more dangerous is the BoG's apparent acquiescence of its PR duties to the NDC. I thought the report should have first gone to Parliament through the Ministry of Finance. Why lower the standards when you promise to reset? Amazing convictions, Manche Bruce II. Now, Arnold says that, okay, Arnold, thank you very much to know that you're locked in. Now, Professor Boidi has confused me more than enlightened me. Is he saying that the reasons for the loss are not discussed in the BoG statement? He wants to know. Musa Abatwa from Kumasi says, the Bank of Ghana deserves praise for transparency and prudent management, despite recording 60.9 billion cedis loss in 2022 amid 51.4% inflation and a sharply depreciating cedi. Losses have now reduced to 15.6 billion as inflation and exchange rate pressures ease. Now, this shows clear progress, not a failure. Dr. Johnson Isiam and his team merit recognition for their disciplined leadership. I've heard some people say that Dr. Johnson Isiam and the central bank have become a victim of their own success, you know. Anyway, let's listen. Hi, brother. We're being misled by the minority, Vaikojo Pogroma, to believe that the BoG is insolvent, and that's false. In the midst of having stable economic outlook, vast stable cedi, a very low inflation rate, hovering around 3% because of the hard work of BoG Gold Board relative to preventing our gold from being smuggled out of the country by undesirable element. We need to snub the notion of incompetency or insolvent narrative being pushed out there by the NPP and rather applaud the BoG working tirelessly with the Gold Board in changing the face of Ghana's economy positively, which once upon a time was seen to be depending on cocoa. The minority must take note. There is a new wind of change. Papa Bisu sends that message. Samuel Brian Boabin says, good morning. The Bank of Ghana is being run like DKM and the God is love. Dr. Johnson, Pandit Isiam and his enablers at the central bank are focusing solely on debt write-offs. Everything else is secondary. He's repeating what they did, which brought the banking sector to its knees. The whole country is in a crime scene. The economy is being criminally managed and at a supersonic speed. To borrow President Mohammed's words, that's Samuel Brian Boabin who sent that message. All right, so I guess that I'll give 2 minutes each. We were built to speak to Ata Isa. Perhaps we'll do that tomorrow because our time is not a good friend of ours now. So what should we be doing better going forward, Big J?
Well, first of all, we've got to address this negative equity issue.
Okay.
The bank's whole is in the region of 96 billion. That we have to address. And it's not sustainable in the long term. So it was intimated in the accounts that there's an MOU with the Ministry of Finance. Some of that has to be actualized, even as they return to profitability in order to absorb some of the losses. Now, the open market operations,
right?
That says it says that if you have excess liquidity, I take it off you at market rates in order to prevent it seeping out into the market. So you have excess money, I take it away from you because I don't want it to go out there chasing the few goods we have and causing prices to go up.
Inflation.
Now, that was a bit on the expensive side,
right,
to put it mildly, right? So we are paying high interest rates just to keep our homes and stable. Now, we have to fix that. The only thing, the good thing now is that the rates have come down so low that even if we had to undertake this level of open market operations, it is hoped that the margins will be smaller. And so, for example, one of the things that are good for the central bank is this. Even if you have to undertake open market operations, the cost will be much smaller because the margins, the rates are much lower and the margins are lower. So that is a good thing. But that policy must be looked at because it was expensive in 2025. And we must make sure going forward that it is not that expensive. The reliance on gold income is a problem. And we must, and you see, gold is remember that this whole gold board issue is we're dealing with artisanal and small scale miners. In a that is the kind word to call them. Others may say anything up to 60-70% of them are galamsey. So we've got to look at, are we solving the galamsey issue? How do we ensure that this gold board thing works not just in terms of mopping up and stopping the smuggling, but bringing it in under a legal way so that it can be sustained. And that's one of the issues. Then this DDEP, the problem is there.
Yeah.
It's still going to be there, right? And so long as there's DDEP on one side, and we need an injection from this from the Ministry of Finance to keep them sustainable, it leads us to worry about independence going forward.
True.
Even though the record of independence of the governor in 2025 versus the Minister of Finance was actually quite good. At one time, some people were even thinking that there was no policy coordination.
Okay.
Then, finally, I would say
Okay.
the cup is half full.
Okay.
The margins are tight,
Right.
but it can be done.
Okay.
Dedi kama mamena PENDREAM TV ase. Na so far so good. Say open online portal e wo Ghana. Ah nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.